Welcome back. WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. You know, the pandemic has brought out some stories here at Baltimore Positive that maybe I wouldn't be telling if we were getting ready for a derby or we're getting ready for the fourth week of the Orioles season. Certainly we're getting ready for the NFL draft here this week. We will have full coverage before and after, and nothing goes better with the draft than pizza. And I live downtown right now. Everybody knows I love pizza. Pizza John's been a sponsor of mine for 100 years, and Squires and Dundalk and whatnot. But I got a place downtown that when my wife and I, when we want to walk for a long walk, get some pizza, it came recommended to me about 5 years ago. It took me a couple years to get there. This place opened kind of right around the time that my wife had leukemia the first time and the second time. But we've fallen in love with the pizza at Verde, and I met this guy at Maritime Magic, so it's kind of interesting. Ed Bosco, first off, proprietor, owner, pizza magician, and sometimes the beer delivery guy to me in recent times during the COVID. I met you at Maritime Magic, and I think that's kind of says everything that I met you at a civic event, an event that's in your community, my community. Brian Billick is our partner on behalf of the Living Classrooms Foundation, which benefits Maritime Magic, and I've had your goodies the last couple of years. I took a card, and I said, I'm going to call that guy and get him on the show and tell his story because he makes great pizza, and I'm sure like every Baltimore business right now, small business, including my own, it's a hell of a challenge what you've gone through, what we've all gone through the last couple of weeks. So I just want to welcome you in and say thanks for the pizza, bro. So welcome. How are things near Patterson Park these days?
Well, thank you. Flattery will get you everywhere when it comes to, stroking our pizza. So
I want the good prosciutto when I come in next time, all right?
Exactly. We only do prosciutto di Parma that we import from Italy, so that's the way we roll. How's business been? It's been a major challenge with all the different documentation that we've had to fill out. My wife is doing the heavy lifting with, the PPP program and some of the grants that are out there. Lots of unemployment notices that we've gotten. But overall, we've evolved into a takeout and delivery business. We prefer takeout because we get to save the large commission fees that some of the third-party delivery companies charge. But we've in the last few weeks have launched our online ordering program. So right now, if you come to Verde, you don't give us a credit card. You pay online, or you order through Grubhub or Uber Eats or one of the delivery services. And you knock on the door, you give us your name, and we hand the pizzas outside. We're trying to follow the CDC guidelines, every step of the way. So we're wearing masks and gloves and washing stuff and sanitizing. And we don't cut our pizzas anymore. That's one thing that we don't do because we don't want to have to touch or handle the pizza at all once it comes out of the oven. So it goes into a box, you get your name put on it, and away you go. So, every day's a challenge. It's an evolution. You look at Major League Sports and how they're evolving, and it's a process. It's a learn on the fly, and right now we're flying.
Well, Ed,
we may crash, but we're flying right now.
Well, but 7 weeks ago, is anybody that's ever opened the place, and I'm going to give you a chance to tell your story, because honestly, I don't know your story. I've only met you once or twice. I came in and grabbed a pizza really at the very beginning of the pandemic when we were still sort of walking. It was the first long walk we went on. It was a 75-degree night. My wife and I cut pizza up, took it up the hill. I told my wife we were going to eat pizza near a castle. So nice. I took her to the top of Patterson Park, and we looked down on the temple and had some pizza, and you gave us some beer to go, and away we go. But we love coming in and sitting down, and I love the ingredients and all that. But more than that, the heart of the story, because 7 weeks ago, this thing changed, and a lot of my friends, my sponsors, State Fair, Fadley's Crab Cakes, my friends at Costas and Al's, and places to serve crabs, and different, all of them. I mean, crabs, a lot. Your place was designed for me to come in, sit down, get an incredible bottle of wine, have a salad, have a really artisan pizza spun in the oven there, and sit there and eat it, and go for a walk, and go up to the park. It's you're not meant to be. No offense to McDonald's or whatever, but you're not Domino's. You're not. That's not what you were set up to be. Yet everyone has had to change what they do and the way. I mean, I'm doing Baltimore Positive because, to your point, right? There's no more Luis Aparicio or Chicago Go-Go White Sox or Orioles there's the draft this week, but you talk about March Madness and the Derby and the Preakness and all these things, the Masters, the things that have been part of my life, my whole life, and 30 years on the radio gone. And I'm like, well, we have to change this. They have to talk to people about something else and something that's significant for them. We're doing Health Week this week. A lot of hospitals. We did arts and entertainment last week. I got to know the people at the symphony and the people at in the creative arts right up the street from you. Come by, get a pizza from you. I talked about Matthews up the street. Places we can go here in Baltimore that aren't Ocean City. They don't involve getting on a plane or going to Chicago and getting deep dish or whatnot. But for all of us to make these changes in our lives for business, for you to become the best carry-out pizza you can be, the best stop-off and have best practices, I think that's all any of us can do. But we all did this one time. So I need to hear your story about how a guy with a 312 area code starts serving me incredible pizza Napolitana on the back of the card here. How'd you get here, man? What's a nice guy like you doing in a place like this?
Oh my God! You know what? I hope you have a long tape in your repertoire there. My wife and I got married in Chicago in 2001 and had a daughter in 2004. I have a previous marriage, 3 other kids, and my oldest son is in L.A. He's a voice actor. I think I mentioned that to you. And I have a daughter who's a veterinarian technician in Chicago. And then my son Evan is our main pizzaiola here. So he's the guy who went to Naples, who went to New York, who studied how to make these Neapolitan pizzas. But going back to Chicago, we tried to do this in the Windy City where deep dish is dominant, and you've got a tavern pizza, which is cut into squares, and, oh my goodness, New York style, and you can even get a Detroit style or a New Haven style in Chicago. Chicago don't have as many pizza restaurants as New York City does, but I think they may have slightly more pizza offerings, different styles, if you will. And we decided to go with a Neapolitan pie because of my Italian heritage, the fact that they cook very quickly. A Neapolitan pizza cooks in 90 seconds. A Chicago-style pizza cooks in 45 minutes. If you're in New York, you've got to wait 8 or 9 minutes to come out of a gas oven. But we use wood. We're a wood-burning pizza restaurant. So we tried to do this in Chicago, right by Wrigley Field, as you mentioned, sports. And we lost a piece of property that we bid on in 2004. It's
worth more now. I've been back there, man. The Cubs bought the whole neighborhood. It's insane, right?
It's beautiful. What they've done to the Wrigley Field area is fantastic, actually, for the old 110-year-old stadium. The surrounding neighborhood's fantastic, and there's a lot of pizza joints there. We wanted to be one of them, but it didn't work out for us. So about 2007, my wife came to Baltimore to do a project for Laureate, which is an online learning.
I knew it well. Yes, absolutely. It's a big headquarters in Harbor East for a while. Yep.
That's correct. They're still there. And she did their financial software, blah, 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 blah. And she's like calling me up saying, Ed, I can't get good pizza in Baltimore. In 2007, she's like, I don't like it. There's no place to go. So I'm thinking, oh, wow, that's very interesting. So she comes back to Chicago. She's like, why don't we think about moving to Baltimore? Because I think if we do a Neapolitan pie, which nobody's doing in 2007, 2008, we could differentiate ourselves, and we could probably get into the market less expensively because real estate's, a different level than in Chicago. So long story short, we moved here in 2009. We took about 3 years to find this building here in Canton, rehab it, purchase it, obviously, and then open up, with our business model. So that's a little bit of background of how we got to Baltimore.
That's incredible. I don't hear a lot of people say we're going to pick Baltimore. And, part of Baltimore Positive, and I know being here, I've been here since birth, right? And the area you were in was a heavy, a Polish area in Highlandtown back in my childhood. I talk about it all the time, and strolling Eastern Avenue and Jaeger's Music and Hausner's, and where the Creative Arts Center was, Patterson movie theaters, where I saw Jaws and I saw Stripes back in the 70s and early 80s, and took my first dates in the early 80s and whatnot. But, you talk about people settling here and picking Baltimore, right? Like, I met my wife in 2003. And she had about a year or two before, she's a Verizon engineer, still 30 years now, and she came to Baltimore like an assignment and loved Baltimore. She met me. She's like, oh, Baltimore, the Hill, and I had food here, and I went there, and I went to Canton Yads. My wife's from New Hampshire. And moving here then sounded like this great thing. We're in 2020. We've had two crooked mayors and a riot in between. We've now had COVID. We've had all of these things happen here. One of the reasons I started Baltimore Positive was because I couldn't sell my condo 2 summers ago, and I'm thinking, well, if I can't sell it, I got to fix it. I got to fix the neighborhood. I got to fix Baltimore. So I founded Baltimore Positive a year and a half because I don't know enough stories like Ed Bosco in 2020 saying you get off a plane, you come here and you say, I want to move to Baltimore and be a part of making Baltimore awesome and have it be a part of my life. I mean, you chose Baltimore. I want to make Baltimore a place people choose over the next 10 years because when you get off a plane and go back home now, it's probably different than 2007, 8, 9. When you say, I'm in Baltimore, people say, why'd you go there? And, I think we all see the challenges we have here, but I think you see the beauty of here, too. I mean, you picked here. I'm here. It didn't pick me. I picked it, and here we are. But you came in from the outside. That is a different kind of story than most people are familiar with here, I think.
Yeah, I think for us, Baltimore represented an opportunity because of real estate values to get into the game, to own a building, and to really bring something to the city, that had heretofore not been true, authentic, traditional Neapolitan pizza. In 2007, when my wife was here in 2008, there was nobody doing it at all. So we thought, okay, we move here, we could afford it, and we could maybe have a chance to differentiate ourselves just by virtue of the fact that we're making our own fresh cheese every day. We make our own fresh burrata every day. We make our dough every day. We make our sauce. We do all our desserts are made in-house, except for the gelato, which we import from Italy, et cetera, et cetera. We import our cheeses from Italy. And nobody was doing that back then. And so we felt that, okay, we can get into the game a little bit less expensively in a city that seems to be, in 2007, 2008, seems to be beginning to gentrify. When I came here in 2007, 2008, I thought I was being back in Chicago in 1988. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It was a slower pace. It didn't have some of the things that Chicago had in terms of theater or sports events or some of the culture that Chicago has with their museums, etc. It was something that I felt, especially as I'm getting older, it was a pace that I could enjoy more. And over the last 12 years, especially as I employ a lot of people in their 20s and 30s, it's become a hipper, more progressive town. And aside from what City Hall is doing, and we all know what's going on there, you look at the cranes, you look at what's being built in Chicago, in Baltimore. You look at where the progress is happening, and it's happening.
And we talk about that all the time, whether it's Port Covington. I mean, you talk about the hospitals in this area and what it represents for COVID during this period. I always say this is where the cure is going to come from over at Hopkins. You know what I mean? Like, this is, we have always been that kind of town, but we've always been sort of sandwiched in between Washington, Philadelphia, New York, a place to stop off or whatnot. And we've always had this charm, right? The charm city that brings people in. I want to get back to your pizza for a second because the idea and the concept, it is a little different. And I think, look, I love pizza, and I've bragged on pizza and East Side pizza, and I think the world of the Squire's Pizza John's style of pizza. I was in New York with my wife a couple months ago. I like deep dish. I don't love it. I tend to have the Jon Stewart thought that it's a casserole. If you're from Chicago, are you familiar with Pequod's Pizza?
Absolutely. They're on Webster and Clybourne. That's a half a block from where I lived when I lived in Chicago.
Okay, so I love Pequod's, right? And I don't even know what you would call that because it has that caramelized. It's almost like a Pizza Hut style where it's kind of not thin, not thick, caramelized crust, but it's not deep dish. And I tell people I love all kinds of pizza, but there's something about your pizza that you can't make your pizza at home. That you don't have the heat to do it. You don't have the wood. I have to come to you to get that in sort of a way that maybe if I really want artisan sushi or I want artisan anything, that I can't make it at home. I can't buy Mama Celestin frozen and bring it home and make it taste anything like a Verde pizza, right?
Well, it's funny you say that because when I'm sitting down and chatting with folks, I'll say to them, our pizza is really a lot like sushi. And they're looking at me like, the hell is this guy talking about? And I say, well, it's like sushi because you really can't make it at home. You can't get your oven up to 850 degrees. They only go to 550. So, I was just talking with my staff today, and we're doing a live Zoom cast on a thing called Socializer on Saturday night about 7 o'clock. But the point was we wanted to also introduce a pizza kit. That's what we're talking about it. I don't know if we'll do it or if we won't do it. But at this time, when people want to have family experiences and do stuff, we're trying to, on Saturday night, we're going to try to entertain our community and also maybe give an opportunity to get some more of our pizza dough and do a home experiment with making your own pizza with some of our dough.
I'll be a dummy for that. I mean, I'm already a dummy. I'll be the guinea pig on that. I'm happy to mix me up a pizza Verde Bianca or something like. I see the ingredients that you use, and I'm not telling anybody anything they don't know if they've watched one episode of Chopped, right? Which is, ingredients make all the difference. And I don't even say burrata the right way for you, right? Or mozzarella. But you make these things and that, the artisan part of it is different, and you do have something that, quite frankly, it's 1.6 miles from me to your place. I walk, and it takes me half an hour, and we like to get our exercise in, but we like to walk to your place because it is so different, and it's an experience, and I'm looking forward to being able to come down and sit at the bar and, get a beer, and I hope we can do that, but in the meantime, you do have pizza that I crave that I can only get from you, so that does make it kind of special, right?
You know what? That's an important part of our business model is the fact that we are doing all these things. We want to do all these things, whether it's, again, making your own mozzarella or your own burrata or the dough or the sauce or whatever. That's a differentiation that I think is important to people. The name Verde evolved from a yoga studio in Chicago, and my wife went in there, and the counter, the reception was a concrete wall that was made out of green concrete. And my wife likes, wow, that's a pretty cool thing. Maybe the restaurant could be called Verde or something. Then we started playing around with green and the green movement and being as green as you can and, Kermit the Frog and all that stuff. And it's easy to be green when you come to Verde because we recycle our oil and we recycle our paper products. And we're just trying to do what we can, to protect not only the environment, but the community in general. So that's where the word Verde comes from. And we do have a green wall at Verde that we imported from Chicago from the same artist who built that wall at the yoga studio.
Nice.
So that's where the name Verde comes from. It's also a basil leaf that's on our logo, and of course there's basil on every one of our pizzas. So there's a few different inferences to being green, whether it's an environmental movement or just, the presence of basil on all our pizzas. It's something that we really try to be true to the tradition, to the authenticity of authentic Neapolitan pizza. I mean, pizza started out, as a peasant food. It was sold on the streets of Naples. Our recipes are not very fancy. Our dough is very simple. It's imported flour, live yeast, filtered water, and sea salt. That's it. So it doesn't have olive oil, and our sauce doesn't have oregano or garlic. Our sauce is just tomatoes that we import from Italy and a little bit of sea salt. That's it.
The simplicity of it is what you're telling me. It's not extra, it's less that makes it taste more to some degree, huh?
I think so. I think the simplicity of these recipes and the simplicity of the way we cook with wood exclusively differentiate ourselves from a lot of places that just turn on a gas oven and away you go. So that's what we wanted to bring to Baltimore. And Baltimore, certainly this community, has received us well. I mean, it was a tough sell in 2012 when we would get a phone call and say, hey, give me a large pizza with extra pepperoni and extra cheese. Well, we don't have large pizzas. Okay, just give me a pizza with extra pepperoni. Well, we don't have pepperoni. What the hell? What do you mean you don't have pepperoni? I said, well, we have Supersada, which is an Italian salami that's very similar to pepperoni. We have it's called salami picante or Supersada picante, and it has no added nitrates. It doesn't have all that extra fat. And all of a sudden, people are like, "Wow, that sounds even better. I'll take one of those." So it was a tough sell, certainly by virtue of the way we present our business model. But Baltimore has taken to Verde. You know, we're here 7.5, almost 8 years, and we're still evolving every day.
Well, you do great stuff, man, and a pleasure to have you on and talk about your pizzas and the passion for pizza, because I think it comes through with anybody that does anything artisan. Verde is a restaurant. It's right off Patterson Park, just a couple blocks, just south of Patterson Park, toward Canton, but not quite toward Fells Point, but not really Patterson Park. It's certainly not Butcher's Hill, but you can find Verde, Verde. Ed Bosco is our guest here. He is the owner and proprietor, telling his incredible Chicago via Italy pizza story in East Baltimore that I enjoy. And so I invited you on. I didn't know you were from Chicago till I texted you a week or two ago. Then I hit you about pizza, and I ate in your place, and we exchanged pleasantries. Then I gave you my last name, and the first thing you said is, "Hey, you're related to the ball player," which is what I get. So my story in Baltimore is that no one says that to me here. Are you related to the player anymore? Because Louis played 66. But anytime I'm in Chicago, even TSA at the airport, Midway, whatever, I pull credit card, I pull it out if I'm having a pizza out there at Pequod's or whatever. And they look at me and they're like, "Are you related?" Anytime in Chicago, I get that, especially if I'm anywhere south of the city. Cubs land, not so much up in Northbrook, but anywhere south. My name means baseball in Chicago, so I'm flattered that you at least were a fan, right?
Yeah, I was a fan. But, let me just back up a step. So I'm born and raised in New York City, in Brooklyn, New York, and I moved out to Chicago in 1982 as a commodity trader.
Okay.
So I was, I'm still a Bulls season ticket holder. I associate myself with all the Chicago teams, but somewhere deep down, I do enjoy the Yankees and recently the Orioles.
Don't say that. Your pizza just took a notch down. It's not as good as I thought it was.
I take it back.
Well,
anyway, it is what it is. These are great pizza towns, and I think Baltimore. When you look at what they're doing in their food scene, it's becoming a hipper spot. And it's being noticed and recognized. And I'm proud to be a part of it. I mean, we moved here with our daughter, who was born in 2004, and to raise our family here. So we dig Baltimore. It's got an edge to it. It's got a vibe to it. And as I evolve as a restaurateur, there's certainly enough to do in this town to keep anyone busy all the time if they want to be.
Well, I got plenty of things on your menu that I'll probably never order, like a calzone, because, I'm just like that. Is it terrible? Like, once you go to a place for a thing. It's like my friends at Costas. Last year or two, my mom died about 2.5 years ago. I always going with my mom. We always get crabs, crab cake, the whole thing. And I said, I didn't even know you had pit beef on your menu. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even know there was a crab imperial because I didn't try it. You have so many different kinds of pizzas I can order, but I can't imagine coming in your place and not getting a pizza. And I know my wife would never come in your place and not get the roasted beet salad because, like, she likes roasted beets and I don't. I like shrimp and she doesn't. I like red peppers and she doesn't. So we have a hard time getting the perfect pizza where both of us can get down with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I think if you come with your wife and you order two different pizzas, then you can always arm wrestle to see who gets to pick the dessert. We love to see that.
Well, it's one way to keep my pizza away from her, and she always says, "I get beets on my salad. You won't touch it." You know what I mean? Hey, man, we'll get together for an unsliced pizza because we're delivering them whole now. If you stop by Verde, untouched pizza, and I know you're following all the CDC guidelines and getting it all together. Do you have a favorite pizza? I mean, is there a pizza I should eat on your menu that I wouldn't? Like, I don't ever order a white pizza because I like red sauce. And my pal over at Franco's, Lou over in Catonsville, he also makes a delicious pizza over there. But he made me a white that I wouldn't have gotten from. I said, "You make me a pizza that you want to make me." And he made me a white pizza, and I'm like, all right, I wouldn't have done that for myself. And of course, I loved it. So there's a lot of things when I come in your place that I might not order that I would like all the ingredients. But sell me on a pizza or two that are down the menu a little bit that maybe I haven't tried or wouldn't try that I should try.
Sure. My favorite pizza on the menu is the Cappuccetto Rosa pizza. And the translation of that is Little Red Riding Hood. But anyway, we use our house-made mozzarella. We have a house-made sausage that's kind of crumbled. We couldn't find a sausage in Baltimore that didn't come in little circles, and they cook differently than crumbled sausage. Plus, the sausage that's made commercially, for our taste, had too much fennel. So we started to just get fresh ground pork, and we add some fresh herbs, a little red wine, salt and pepper, and that's our house-made sausage. The Cappuccino Rossa is house-made mozzarella. It's our house-made sausage, and then we roast red peppers. It's sausage and peppers.
You're not
And then we
doing
put
this
some
to me tonight,
Parmesan
right?
on it.
Not during dinner hour. You're not doing this to me.
That's the Cappuccino Rossa. But I think if you're looking for a very popular pizza, we take pistachios and we grind them up with a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of Parmesan cheese. And that's our base for the pizza. It's called pistachio e salsicce. Again, it's made with a pistachio pesto, house-made mozzarella, and then we use that house-made sausage and some pecorino romano. That's our most popular pizza. It has become more popular than our margherita, which is a very classic house-made mozzarella, tomato sauce, and a little bit of Parmesan Reggiano. So between the pistachio and salsicce, which is a white pizza, and the Cappuccino Rosso, which is my favorite and happens to be a red pizza, those are two classic pizzas that I think, are very popular at Verde. Another one that's pretty popular is our classic pizza con burrata. So we'll take a fresh burrata and we'll put it on top of a pizza that's cooked in the oven with just tomato sauce. And then we put this burrata on top of it. It kind of oozes into the pizza, and a little bit of basil on top of each slice of burrata, and olive oil. Again, simple ingredients, but the presentation is really beautiful with that pizza. I can go on and on and on. The reason we have 50 pizzas on the menu and 7 calzones is because we don't do substitutions. You got to understand that on a Friday, Saturday night, if we have people trying to make their own pizza, we're going to screw up the execution because each one has to be red, and then, they want this, don't want that, substitute this. So we don't do substitutions. If you have a dietary problem, we'll take something off of the pizza. But to make your own pizza, we're just not that kind of a restaurant. Because if you're making 250 pizzas in real time on a Friday, Saturday night, it's hard to make changes on the fly. So we kind of stick to our recipes. And some people, are not into that. And then I sit down with them and explain to them why, this is the reason why. We can't execute a volume without having no substitution. So that's our policy. But anyway, so we have 50 pizzas, and I think of these 50 pizzas, if you can't find one that you like, we might not be your pizza restaurant.
You might not like pizza.
You might want to go for some Thai food.
Go get some crabs or something. Absolutely. Ed Bosco joining us here. Verde is the place. It's one of our favorite places to go and grab a pizza. And I've gotten to see you out and around town. I'm really delighted I had you on and I had you tell your story. And I knew there was a hell of a story behind all that fresh cheese you were turning out over there in the prosciutto and all the good stuff we've had. We will get over to visit you very, very soon. You've made me hungry. I skipped lunch today. Now I'm just like, man, you start talking about mozzarella sausage, roasted red peppers, and I mean that gets me moving toward a pizza. But I appreciate you, and look, when we get it all together, I won't say this lightly, I might go to a Yankee game with you or something. Maybe, maybe. All right.
Okay. All right. As long as it's in Baltimore.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's 2 blocks from the house. I don't mind a good trip to New York. Hey, speaking of pizza, my wife and I, right before the COVID happened, we found ourselves in Manhattan. We went up to see an Eagles concert, but we didn't go. We wound up over in Brooklyn by the Brooklyn Bowl. And I wound up in Brooklyn really hungry, and I have never really spent a lot of time in Brooklyn in my life, and I know the most famous pizza. So I literally Google Map like anybody would do, probably the same way people would find you if they were looking for you sometimes in Baltimore. And we found some really time-honored Brooklyn pizzerias, and we went around, and I just want to go back to Brooklyn and hang out for like a month and eat pizza 3 times a day for a month in Brooklyn, because you literally could do that, right? Like, and none of it would taste the same, which is really the cool part of pizza, right?
Well, you know what? You know what they say about pizza. You probably do, but the point is that
I do.
I think all pizza is pretty darn good. It depends on where you are and what you're looking for. But in the aggregate, it's a real great comfort food. 95% of children under, I think, 13 or 14 years old, they say that pizza is their favorite meal. So it's popular. It's approachable on so many different levels, from a flavor profile to a cost point of view. It's the quintessential delivery food, which we're evolving into. But I tell you what, if you come and you get a pizza at Verde, remember to order it at verdepizza.com online, because we're not accepting credit cards or cash right now.
All right. Well, we'll get everybody out, and good luck to you on Saturday night with your putting together pizzas. And we have a pizza stone in our home, so and we've been known to throw down a little chop challenge, my wife and I, on how we make things. So I can see a fun Saturday night here during COVID with a Verde pizza. Appreciate you, Ed. Thanks for coming on. Go sell some pizzas, all right?
Thanks, man. Thanks
I heard
a lot.
the phones ringing back there. You got people back there that need their salsiccio fungi. You can find them at verdepizza.com and order. And the phone number there is 410-522-1000, and you can find the VERDE. I've been fighting Baltimore business owners on just because I like pizza, because I like people, and because I like business owners, and because I didn't get my PPP yet. Nasty at WNST.net will find me. We're out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault. Speaking of baseball, Cal Ripken joined us on Baltimore Positive for about an hour this week. You can go check that out at WNST.net. And we are into NFL draft. You'll find Lamar Jackson up in the buyatoyota.com audio vault, as well as Luke Jones. Brian Billick was with us this week. Dennis Kolotzis will be here Thursday before the draft, after the draft, as well as with Luke and I, putting together however many picks Eric DaCosta figures out on Zoom. And a special note to Eric DaCosta and his wife and kids. Stay off the Wi-Fi so Eric can make his picks on Thursday night. All right. We are WNST.net, AM 1570. We're keeping calm, we're staying local, and we're eating pizza because we're Baltimore Positive.